Hello all, welcome back to Words and Pictures for some more tag time. I've got the tags on the table that we made, I think, just this last Saturday in a few minutes of fun. Lots of stenciling techniques. Take a look at that if you want to see how these were made. I'll link it in the description below, obviously. In my recent workshop, one of my recent workshops in the UK when I was there, one of the participants kindly gave me some of her die-cut beetles. So that's the Tim Holtz Entomology stamp set, which Sizzix produced coordinating dies for, and I was thrilled because I thought, well, that's lovely, that makes, and the intricacy of the cut is amazing. I got home and discovered that I actually own the coordinating dies as well as the stamp set, which I'd completely forgotten about. So thank you, Leslie, I think it was, for the nudge to remind me. So I'm sorry, insects are going to be around again. It's summer and they're everywhere. I've just recently posted an amazing video on my other Instagram at Bohemian Home of a huge bumblebee. I mean, literally 2 inches long, enjoying himself in the garden. And yeah, it's that kind of year. So I'm thinking there might be some insects. I can't really decide which tag I want to kick off with. I think these two are sort of heading the list. I do love this one, but I'm not quite sure what I want to do with it yet. This one I'm sort of thinking might have, in a Victorian sort of way, specimens. So actually they might be going to go here, because I think that's quite decorative. And then I'm going to need to stamp and cut a third one. So that might be a tag time that we get to quite soon. I'm sort of drawn to butterfly mothy things at the moment. So I've got the large entomology set here. No, specimen, this one is called. And maybe it's this one to start with today. Do I want to work it in a pair with this? That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? Let's see. That might be the thing. I've got various embossing powders around. I've also got various ones of my sort of meadowgrassy type stamps that I think might be a thing. I'm going to get out my Wow Premium Embossing Mat. Not only for embossing, but obviously silicone mat, water resistant, so it's great as a palette and all of those kinds of things. Lots of people have asked me about it in the past, so I thought it was only fair to give it an actual mention. I think it's going to be relatively simple today. So of the two butterflies here, this one is very, you get to see a lot of background in between it. This one covers up a lot of background. So I'm thinking maybe it's something, it's going to be partial stamping, because it always is, as that's what I enjoy. I'm not such a fan of that, but we could do a sort of almost 2/3 stamping of him and an almost 2/3 stamping of him or her. Equal opportunities butterflies. That might be something like that. In terms of embossing powder or colour or any of that, I'm sort of in two minds. So obviously if I use a clear embossing powder, I can go with any ink colour underneath and the embossing powder will just make it pop. Or I have got these Stampendous embossing powders. It might be quite nice to have him embossed in the blue or the green. Or trouble is, if I emboss this, there's going to be almost no opportunity to colour over the top. Well, so maybe what we do is use the stamping platform. Back in a sec. So this will allow me to stamp, maybe do a bit of colouring, and then re-stamp to recreate the detail. It also means if I mess up the stamping, then I can go back in and get a clearer, firmer, brighter, whatever it might be that needs to happen, version of the stamping itself. Almost inclined to stamp in a blue or a turquoise. I need to make sure it's going to show up. If I want to paint over it or colour it or, you know, use any kind of medium, then I really need to make sure it's an archival ink that I stamp in. Oh, look, and I haven't even properly unpacked from my trip yet. I'm going to go and get my Archival inks. It's just been that kind of week, I'm afraid. I just, yeah, haven't quite got myself back together again yet. And in fact, looking at that, I think before I stamp the butterfly, I might want to add a little bit of grassy stamping to this tag. I'm wondering about these as just a really delicate thing to add. So one is a silhouette, one has got little sketchy details. Pressed grasses, I think it might be nice to have a bit of this just added to this background. Going to keep it quite soft, so I think I'm going to stamp it in Faded Jeans. I know this is a risk because if I'm then colouring the butterfly later, where I'm planning to stamp is actually going to go up behind the butterfly. But I think the butterfly is detailed enough that even if this does soften behind it, I think I'm going to be fine with that. So that's Faded Jeans Distress ink, which, as we know, remains water reactive, but so is the whole background water reactive. It was done with distress inks and sprays. So whatever I do, I'm going to have to be a little bit careful. Yeah, I'm just enjoying how that's bringing the eye in on that tag. Maybe one more coming up the middle here, but only the top bit. There we go. Ooh, yeah, and seeing that makes me want a little more either side. There we go. So now we've got something that really gives us a sense of garden, I think. The blossoms maybe floating in the air, or the rose bushes growing a little taller, meadowy grasses. I've just been mowing shoulder high grasses down, some that were even higher than my head. So grassy gardens feeling very familiar at the moment. Right, so let's have another look at this. Take him off there. So these little magnets just hold the tag firmly in position for stampings and re-stampings. Slide it off the edge there to get it back to where we want it. I think he's going to be here, hovering among the grasses. 2/3 on, I think, should do the job nicely. Unfortunately, the tag is a little bit curly. I could have been pressing them overnight under some books, but I didn't quite get round to it. Still in two minds about what colour I'm going to stamp him in. I think I could start with something subtle to allow me to paint him, colour him again, and then if need be, so he's now over on this side, ink him up on the stamping platform. I seem to have done this before because I don't know if you can see this edge of his wing has not been as stamped as this bit. I think that should give us, it gives us a starting point for colouring or painting or whatever it is I think I'm going to do. And then if I want something bolder, I have the option. See, that's really, really subtle. That's simply not going to show. I'm wondering about using some Distress Watercolour Pencils, yellows, blues, greens. Yeah, let's just get some colour down. Who knows? It's only paper after all. This is Rustic Wilderness, which is a pretty full-on green, so I'm just going to go with a bit of that into the body. So I'm going to start by applying colour direct to the image, and then because these are watercolour pencils, I'll be able to use water to spread out and blend and open up the colour. I think I want some turquoisey colours. Where's my turquoises? Oh, maybe some purples. Don't know if you heard that. I said, ooh, and maybe some purples. The sun's gone in, which is unhelpful partway through a video because it's just completely changed the light. I'm going to pop a bit of light on. I don't think it's a permanent state of affairs, the sun going in. It's one of those lovely early summer days where there are beautiful fluffy white clouds in the sky, as well as gorgeous blue skies behind them. So if you want to know more about these Distress Watercolour Pencils, there is a whole swatching video where I talk a lot about ways to use them, ways to apply them. So you can also, for instance, dip this in some water before you apply it, so it's already going on a little bit more softly. And I'm just going to add colour, but you'll see when I use a water brush or just a brush dipped in some water, I'll be able to make these colours blend and move really beautifully. So this is Salvaged Patina going on now. He's rather pretty. I rather like him already. I think I want some faded jeans will mean that we've got something tying us into the background, because I know this was Uncharted Mariner, but because it's gone on in quite a pale application, it's got a sort of faded jeans look to it. And I know butterflies are symmetrical, so I'm vaguely aiming colours in similar places. I'm going to add a little bit of that faded jeans to his body as well. So although this is obscuring the detail of the stamping at the moment, because we're on the stamp platform, at any time I can go back in and just refresh that detail. I think a little bit of purple might be nice. And while I'm doing this, my brain is furiously considering what colour we might do the re-stamping in. This is shaded lilac, and I think we might put some shaded lilac right in those two little holes there. It's a beautiful colour, shaded lilac. So let's use it. It's a real Monet colour. It's a real Garden at Giverny sort of a colour. Always makes me happy. And these are really, we're now into summer colour palette with a vengeance. It's the blues, the greens, and then occasional sort of flower colours or butterfly colours or whatever it might be to add a little bit more detail. Right, I'm going to take a water brush to this just to move some of this colour around, and you'll see that it blends really beautifully, just softening some of those edges that happened as I applied the pencil. Just creating a lovely soft blended colouring tone. And then if I want to add some sort of more specific dots of colour, so you'll see I've taken rich colour down only one side of this body. The other side is softer bluey colour, so that's just to encourage that sense of dimension on his body. This is not the best cardstock in the world, so I'm noticing it's starting to pill and rub a little bit here, so I'm just going to be very careful with the amount of water that I continue to apply. I think that's pretty nice. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see more of the detail of that. Maybe I'll add a little bit of deeper purple. This is Villainous Potion. Just adding a bit of extra in places. Coming up there, maybe in under the body. As I say, I'm being very careful around this place where it's been pilling. By pilling, I just mean the paper is sort of rubbing a little bit. We could pop a little bit of brightness in there, couldn't we, with some cracked pistachio. Right, so what colour is going to really... I might have to go black just to really let that butterfly sing. I'm going to try a cobalt blue to start with. If this doesn't get us enough, I can always come back with some black. But this might be the thing. I so rarely stamp in black that it really feels like not me when I do it. Sometimes it is the only way to make an image pop. But as we know, clear embossing powder can also do that work. Sorry, just remembered I need to stay on camera because I've zoomed in. So let's stay up there. Good firm pressure. And the detail of that has all popped back into glorious focus. I'm wondering about throwing some embossing powder over him. Obviously, in order to do that, I'm going to need to lift him off the stamping platform. So I need to be absolutely sure I'm done with stamping if I'm going to do that. Because those background colours are also still a little wet, the embossing powder should stick to those too, which will mean we get an altogether kind of iridescent sort of butterfly. We won't worry about that for now. I'm going to get the embossing powder on while I can. So clear embossing, make sure it's not white. Don't want to add white embossing powder to this. This would be a shame. So let's pop that on. Yeah, adding white embossing powder at this point would mean he'd disappear into being white. Grand. I think that's going to be quite pleasing when we heat it. But maybe we will just work the one today. Maybe it's not a pair. Maybe we'll come back to the other another day. I've lost the lid for my Cobalt blue. Must be around. Not panic. Grand. So cleaning the stamping platform, if you're somebody that likes things nice and clean, you can do that with a little bit of alcohol ink or a baby wipe. We've almost got a complete stamping of him now. Just wondering, while he's in there, whether I want to stamp him anywhere else. No, not for today. Let's keep things simple. I'll pop this aside and clean it up later. And let's return our attention to this. Okay, I'm going to do the heat embossing. You can see there's powder clinging to all of that because all that detail is slightly muted at the moment. Hopefully, as I heat emboss it, it's going to come winging its way back into focus. In fact, it might be fairer to do it on camera than go away, because I think it might be quite a magical moment. So what's lovely about this stamp, excuse me, what is lovely about this stamp is you do have these places where suddenly there's less inky detail and those colours really shine through. So here it goes. I can see some of it starting to shift. Hopefully you can see as that melting travels across the butterfly, he's just popping back into focus. Gorgeous. And over here, now you can see really clearly where it's done and not done now. That little patch there, it is not yet heated. For one reason or another, maybe it was a little bit wetter, maybe the powder was a little bit thicker there. It just takes that little bit longer to really go to full melt. Let's take a look. Oh, look at the shine on that. Grand. So looking at it now, I sort of want a little bit more grassiness going up the side here. So I'm going to grab that back. I'm going to stick to the faded jeans, I think. Although I may come back in and also do some grassy stamping with some green. I think might also be quite nice. I'm going to see. I don't want to overcrowd things, but I do just want a little sense of the grasses coming up the sides here. There we go. Simple as that. Just to create that drawing in of the eye. Another thing that will serve that, of course, is to do a bit of inking around the edge. I might be up for a few little bits of numbers and postmarks and that sort of affair, but I'm just going to celebrate one more time. That shiny butterfly catching your eye. It's that flicker of wings that if you're out in the garden sitting or working or reading and you just kind of catch a flicker of movement, this flash of light across the body of the stamped butterfly kind of replicates that moment. Right, I'm going to clear the decks a little bit, come back and see what else I want to do. Back in a sec. Right, partly in the interests of not opening up hundreds of stamp sets, I'm going to stick with what's on the table, make use of the things that are to hand. There are lovely ephemera stamps on both of these. One of my favourite bits of ephemera here on the pressed grasses, this lovely label on the Tim Holtz set. So I'm thinking this might go somewhere down at the bottom here. And it's just amongst the grasses. It's not the point. It's going to sort of fade into the background a little bit. It's potting soil, so it's a sort of a greyish brown affair. I think it might be that way. Let's have a look. Well, maybe we do want it upright. No, I think I'm going to stick to my guns and go sideways. Always, I always quite like having some text going sideways, because it just means the brain doesn't get involved in trying to interpret it. It just lets it be part of a detailing, a kind of pleasurable vintage vibe without sort of getting too in your face. So this one, I think I'm going to pop somewhere here amongst these grasses up at the top. Again, this one's going to be a partial stamping because that's one of the things I really enjoy. I do like that. I think we're going to have an echo of that down below, but less of it this time. So I'm just going to connect it to that specimen stamp, make them all part of the same kind of effect down there. That's really making me happy, which is sort of the point of playing, creating. In that moment of flow or decision making, something happens and you just go, yeah, that is what I wanted. And I'm enjoying this connection of those two there. I'm just wondering if I want to do the same thing at the top. So again, this question of looking at what's happening as I'm creating, and that's what's guiding the next decision. I'm really enjoying this, so I'm going to replicate it. Repetition and variation. So the same two stamps in slightly different positions, slightly different orientations. So one is upright, one is sideways. Yeah, that's good. And then I'm just wondering about adding, so the number is under this side, which you can't quite see. With a little bit of tape, I can make sure we don't ink up the whole of this, but only ink up just the number. Might use that bit of tape as well in a minute. On something else, maybe not on this. So that's inking up those, and then if you peel this away again, that's now all that's inked up, just the number, so that I can choose to position it at this end of that stamp rather than the other end. And that's giving me that extra bit of detail as well. Grand. I'm enjoying all of this quite a lot. Let's pop that back on there. I can't get over that as it catches the light. It's just a magical flicker of beauty. Right, a little inking around the edges. I think I'm going to use walnut stain, which is quite a soft, cool brown, which will work nicely with that potting soil. And just watch as I do this, how it, again, just draws the eye inwards to what's going on in the centre. This is a very flimsy bit of cardstock. I'm definitely going to mount it on another piece of card just to give it a little more heft, a little more presence, a little more delight. I think I just need, might be some word stickers, might be some. So I've got out Wings and Flight, which has got lovely things that I burned and ached for wings. Wonderful. Keats. At Night I have wings, Franz Richter, another. Then there's birds. So there's dragonflies. So that dragonfly quote I need to pair with the perspective moth at some time. That's Arthur Conan Doyle, who of course wrote the Sherlock Holmes stories. Love this Helen Keller quote. One can never consent to creep when one feels an impulse to soar. Just wondering about adding that there, but I think it might be a bit much. The alternative, if I'm sticking to the stamp sets that are on the table, as I said, is to have a look for one of the words from this Pressed Grasses set. Can't remember what's on here in word terms. Hopeful, listen, meadow, meadow, I hear it in the deep heart's core. That's from W.B. Yeats. Yeats and Keats. Just wondering about using a bit of this spatter to add some more detail. That could be nice. Maybe in green. I'm not sure I want to do it on there. I think I might do it as a freehand roll and peel kind of an affair. Let's Let's just put a little bit of spatter detail through into this meadow background. Again, really subtle, but just a way to add, I don't know, pollen in the air. Not that I'm a huge fan of pollen. But you know, it's there. We can't deny what nature is doing. And because I'm building up all this kind of detail around the edges, this moment of light in the centre is sort of becoming lighter and lighter by comparison. That's the power of contrast. I'm thinking it might be listen or meadow. Let's have a look at the word. I know it won't be the right way up, but I can just kind of get a sense of whether I want it there. Listen. Maybe it wants to listen, and I hear it in the deep heart call. And then if I put that there, I think I'm going to want a bit of a balancing act here, which might be some, maybe just some twine wrapped around the tag. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for it. I think it's going to be the potting soil again. So it's going to tie us into this background. And now the roses are going to, well, if I do that, the roses are going to become almost invisible. Let's maybe have a look at a word sticker. Back in a sec. I got out the small talk stickers and opened up the pages, and the very first thing that hit my eye was, "With brave wings, she flies." So having looked at all those quotes on the Wings and Flight set, I think it is one about wings, but it happens to be one of these small talk stickers. And I'm looking at it here, and again I'm regretting those roses disappearing. I'm looking at it here, and there's something a bit unbalanced about that. So my thing at the moment is, maybe what I want to do is chop it. And for me, where I chop things is important. I can't go with brave wings she flies. That's not going to work for me. With brave wings, she flies. I'm going to risk it. Again, there's no point spending lots of my life trying to work out if that's what I want or not. Either it is or it isn't. And if it isn't, I can rethink. So I think it's something there. And then I'm just trimming the edges of these, because having cut it in half, there's less of a border around it. With brave wings, she flies. I think it's that. I think it's as simple as that. And I might do just the teensiest bit of inking around the edge of this. Again, just to bed it into the background. Yes, that little bit of inking is making all the difference in the world. It's fascinating to me how something so subtle can change the look. Grand. A little bit of glue. I'm going to stick those down. A little bit of twine in the top. I'm probably going to back it onto some card. And I'll be back to share a close-up. Thank you as always for your company on this creative journey. Do leave any comments or questions down below. As always, I'll leave as many ingredients and useful links in the description below the video, so check there if there's anything you want to know. And yeah, I hope you'll enjoy some tag time of your own very soon. Thanks so much for watching, and happy crafting all. Just before heading in for the close-up, I just want to share with you what I've done to give these iodoform labels a little bit more presence in the background, and that's to just give them the teensiest touch of a little bit of matint. So this tinted matte glaze, a little bit of dragonfly, a little bit of ash, which is perfect for giving a vintage touch. And because they're completely transparent, you don't lose the stamping detail, but it's just giving those labels a little bit more presence in that background, and I love it as an effect. Grand. Time for the close-up.